Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Canada just dropped a massive $110 billion energy retaliation on the United States, and it's shaking up North America's trade landscape like never before. After Donald Trump's aggressive tariffs on Canadian imports, Ontario has fired back with a bold 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. This isn't just about energy costs. It's a high-stakes political and economic showdown between two of the world's largest economies. And with Mark Carney stepping into power as Canada's new Prime Minister, the stakes have skyrocketed. Buckle up. Let's break down how this trade war escalated so quickly and why it matters. The spark that lit the fire: Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods. Trade tensions between Canada and the United States had been brewing for years, but Trump's latest tariffs pushed things over the edge. In early March, Trump imposed a harsh 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican imports, targeting key industries like steel, aluminum, lumber, and dairy. Canada's then Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, immediately condemned the move, calling it a direct assault on Canada's economic sovereignty. Trump claimed Canada was exploiting favorable trade deals and undercutting American manufacturers and workers. The tariffs hit Canadian industries hard, raising costs and reducing access to the U.S. market. But the real shock came when Ontario retaliated with its own tariffs on electricity exports, a counterstrike that few saw coming. Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford, didn't hold back. He slapped a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S., a move designed to hit American consumers where it hurts. Ford's aggressive response wasn't just about balancing the trade equation. It was a political statement that Canada wasn't going to sit back and take the hit. The fallout was immediate, straining diplomatic ties and setting the stage for a high-stakes trade war between two of the world's largest economies. But Ontario's response wasn't just about protecting its economy. It signaled a deeper shift in Canadian trade policy. That leads us to the next key development: Ontario's retaliation. Why a $110 billion energy tariff? Ontario's 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. wasn't just about balancing the books. It was a strategic political strike. The surcharge, which could add around $100 to monthly utility bills in states like Minnesota, Michigan, and New York, is expected to generate between $300,000 and $400,000 in daily revenue for Ontario. That revenue will help lower electricity costs for Ontario residents, essentially shifting the economic pain from Canadians to Americans. Premier Doug Ford didn't mince words when explaining the move. The American people didn't ask for this trade war. Trump did, Ford stated in a fiery press conference. He even suggested that the surcharge could increase if Trump retaliates with more tariffs. The fallout has been swift. Michigan officials have warned that higher costs and unstable energy supply could disrupt the regional power grid. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul launched an investigation into the surcharge's impact on state residents, while Minnesota Governor Tim Walz accused Trump of economic recklessness. Ontario's move marks a turning point in Canada's trade policy. Ford's willingness to escalate the conflict signals that Canada is no longer willing to absorb U.S. trade aggression. They're ready to strike back. But Ontario's tariffs aren't the only game-changing move. Canada's political landscape is shifting, and that's where Mark Carney comes in. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now, let's shift gears and steer towards our next point: the political power shift, Mark Carney's leadership strategy. Ontario's bold tariff move comes at a turning point in Canadian politics. Justin Trudeau's resignation paved the way for Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, to become Canada's new Prime Minister. Carney's leadership signals a dramatic shift in Canada's economic strategy. Carney, a global finance expert known for managing economic crises, has vowed to take a tough stance on U.S. trade aggression. In his victory speech, he declared that retaliatory tariffs would remain until the U.S. commits to free and fair trade. His strategy focuses on strengthening Canada's energy sector, building new trade partnerships, and reducing reliance on American markets. Carney also plans to split the federal budget into operational and capital spending to boost infrastructure and energy development. His goal? To turn Canada into an energy superpower, one that holds leverage in future trade negotiations. Not everyone is on board. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has accused Carney of lacking transparency and warned that his strategy could destabilize Canada's financial system. But with strong backing from the Liberal Party and a proven track record, Carney is positioned to reshape Canada's trade policy on the global stage. Carney's tough stance is already causing ripples south of the border. Let's see how the US is handling it. The fallout in the United States, mixed reactions, and uncertainty. Ontario's tariffs have triggered immediate backlash in the US. American utility companies are warning of higher electricity costs, especially in states like Michigan, Minnesota, and New York, which rely heavily on Canadian energy imports. Michigan's Public Service Commission has also raised alarms about potential power grid instability and increased vulnerability to cyber attacks if cross-border energy flows are disrupted. Political leaders in affected states have been vocal in their criticism. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called the tariffs economic warfare and urged Trump to rethink his trade strategy. New York Governor Kathy Hochul slammed Trump's tariffs as reckless and blamed them for creating unnecessary economic instability. Despite the mounting pressure, Trump remains defiant. He labeled Ontario's surcharge a hostile act and threatened to hit back with even more tariffs on Canadian goods. Trump's hardline stance has fueled uncertainty in financial markets, with investors bracing for further trade disruptions. Trump's trade policies are becoming a hot-button issue. Ontario's retaliation has put Trump's economic strategy under the spotlight, and voters in key swing states could make trade a deciding factor at the ballot box. But Canada isn't done yet. Ford and Carney are already planning their next strategic moves. Canada's next move: energy leverage and strategic partnerships. Ontario's tariffs are just the start of Canada's new trade strategy. Premier Doug Ford has already hinted at additional countermeasures, including potential tariffs on American alcohol, food products, and automotive exports. The most aggressive threat? Reducing or cutting off energy exports to the US, a move that could have severe economic consequences for American consumers and businesses. Canada's position as a major energy supplier gives it powerful leverage in trade negotiations. The country exports around 4 million barrels of oil per day to the US, and any disruption in this flow could send energy prices soaring globally. Ford has openly called energy exports Canada's trump card, a clear signal that Canada is ready to apply pressure if Trump escalates the trade war. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mark Carney is pursuing a broader strategy to strengthen Canada's energy independence. His plan includes building new pipelines, expanding renewable energy production, and securing trade agreements with Asian and European markets. If successful, this approach could reduce Canada's dependence on the US market and give Canada more negotiating power in future trade disputes. So where does this leave Canada and the US? The road ahead for Canada and US relations. Canada's $110 billion energy retaliation has reshaped North American trade dynamics. Ontario's bold response has exposed the US energy market's vulnerability and shown that Canada is ready to push back against Trump's trade policies. Under Mark Carney's leadership, Canada is shifting toward greater economic independence, strengthening its energy sector, and reducing reliance on American markets. The big question now is how Trump will respond. Will he escalate with more tariffs, or will political pressure force him to reconsider his approach? And how will Carney's strategy of energy dominance and diversified trade partnerships shape Canada's future on the global stage? What's your take on this trade standoff? Do you think Canada's tough stance will force Trump to back down? Or are we heading toward a deeper trade war? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Piston Pundit for the latest updates on this evolving showdown. Thanks for watching and see you next time.